second graders. We're here with lesson 6, all about floods. And that's going to be on pages 15 and 16 of your science notebooks, the lesson after yesterday's lesson. And I'm noticing right here we have a pretty incredible before and after picture showing what this town looked like before it flooded and what it looked like after it flooded.
Wow.
That's devastating.
That's so...
It doesn't even look the same.
No, look at how like beautiful this picture looks and how like almost perfect all the homes are sitting and the trees are growing.
How separate the water is from the land.
Yeah.
How colorful everything is.
Wow.
And then once it flooded, mud covered everything and turned everything brown, and the houses have been shifted and moved, and trees have been downed, and you can't even see the road because everything is just covered in mud. It's awful. Wow. Can you roll this up a little bit so we can see maybe like if we were to zoom out with the drone and look from high above, here is kind of what it looked like, and you can just see how much like more dirt there is, how much wider the water is. It's pretty crazy.
So that flood definitely changed the form of the land from what it was into it is now. I'm wondering, do you think that that flood was a slow change, or do you think it was a fast change? Because we've been talking all about different types of erosion.
Well, I know that the title of this is flash flood.
Yeah.
Flash usually means it happens quickly.
Quick.
So I'm thinking that this happened pretty quickly.
Yeah. Floods don't normally take days and days and days.
Right. Okay.
They usually happen
pretty quickly. All right. I think we have a video to show you guys of a flood. I think it's in a different location from this because floods can happen all over the world. But take a look at this.
This is one of the driest places on Earth. It is the Kalahari Desert in southern Africa. For much of the year, the animals living here have to struggle to find enough food and water to survive. So it's probably one of the last places you'd expect to see a fish swimming around. However, for a few months every year, floods transform this whole area. From a desert into a huge wetland. The flooding begins with heavy rainfall in the mountains of Angola, more than 1,000 kilometers away. The rainwater collects in streams and rivers, then flows down the Okavango River toward the flat desert. It takes more than a month for the rainwater to make this journey. Then, gradually, the water floods the area, changing the landscape completely. The floodwater allows new plants to grow and attracts animals from far and wide. From monkeys to crocodiles, water birds to elephants. There are even fish swimming through the shallow water. At its peak, the flood covers an area larger than the state of Connecticut. Eventually, the intense heat will dry up the floodwater, and the land will go back to being a desert. But only until heavy rains begin to fall again next year in those faraway mountains, starting the floods all over again.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so it looks like we have a graphic organizer here where we're going to talk about what we watched in the video about the Kalahari flood. So first of all, we want to ask, how did it change the land?
Yeah, the land definitely changed. And what's cool is that this is a kind of change that happens year after year.
Yes.
So at the beginning, I remember seeing a picture of lions and elephants with hardly any water. They're in the middle of a desert. It's hot, it's dry, rarely anything to drink. So then all of a sudden the rain comes, and it turns into a flood.
Yeah.
So the land changes because it was a desert, it was hot and dry, and it changes to a wetland where it's flooded. So cool.
Yeah.
So why don't we try writing something like that? Maybe we could write the land.
Make sure you guys are copying her.
Changes from a dry desert or dessert?
You want to be in the desert once and you want to eat dessert twice, so 1S.
From a dry desert to a wet, I'm going to say a wetland.
A wetland. All right, next it asks us, what can we observe? So a lot of things happened. For example, the land became more wet. We had different animals because there was water.
Yeah, they said, you know, all of a sudden you could find a fish.
Yeah.
You can't find fish in the desert unless it starts to flood.
Yeah.
And when all that water comes in, even new plants start growing.
Yeah.
It almost gives new life to the island once there's water there.
Yes.
So we could write something down, and we can just do bullets. We could put new animals.
Yep. New plants.
New plants.
And maybe more water.
Yeah.
And then finally it asks us, how long does it take? And I remember hearing in the video, they said something like it takes about a month.
Yeah.
For that flood to make it from the mountains all the way to the Kalahari Desert.
So that is not a flash flood.
It is not.
That flood takes a long time.
All right, next, what it wants us to do is to create a small timeline to show changes that happened in the video we just watched. And it says to choose 4 or more events and write them in. And these can be short little bullet points as well. So we can even start with what it looked like before. So maybe our first bullet point is it was a dry desert. No water, dry desert, maybe at the beginning. And then maybe our next one could be that the floodwaters came and, you know, however you want to say that. Floodwaters came, water came to the land. And then we have our new plants and animals. So I'm guessing that the animals came quicker than the plants grew because they smelled, they heard, they saw that water, and they were thirsty. So we probably got some new plants and some new animals as well.
What I thought was so cool is that it didn't end with the new plants and animals. It's like a cycle.
Yeah.
So after those new plants and animals arrived, they stayed there for a while until that water disappeared and it turned back into a desert again.
Yep.
I think that's pretty cool. So, I mean, we could either finish by saying that we have a wetland, or we could say it returns to being a desert.
Yeah, either one
way
works. All right, so once you guys finish copying this, again, feel free to push pause so that you can finish copying these. We're gonna keep moving on in the video, but push pause if you need to finish copying these. We have 2 really quick videos, one like 40-second video of a flash flood to show you, and then we'll get to this reflect video after that. be incredible, Miss Marquardt, to see that in a matter of maybe minutes or hours, there's so much water that cars are floating down the road.
Yeah, cars aren't meant to float down the road.
No.
They're supposed to drive down the road. That
Wow.
happened really, really quickly.
I think it's important for you guys to see what a flash flood really can look like if it happens in a town. Wow. We have this last video we're going to watch together right now that's going to help us answer our final reflect question.
True or false? Floods can have some positive effects. True. After the heavy monsoon rains in India, the river Ganges floods its banks. The silt it deposits is rich in nutrients, making the floodplains a very fertile place to farm.
Awesome. So really quick, just a little reflection at the end. We saw how devastating floods can be in some parts of the world, but we also saw in the Kalahari and also in India that they can indeed, we want to click true on that, have positive effects. In the Kalahari Desert, we saw that it brought new animals, it brought life to the desert, it brought new plants, and in India, it provides fertile land for the people that live there to grow food on.
Which they really need.
Yeah, and they rely on that monsoon season, just like in the Kalahari. It happens every year. The banks flood, and then they use it to their benefit.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, we learned a lot so far. We're just learning so much. We've got like erosion from the wind that we're learning about, volcanoes, floods. I just can't see where this is going to go next. I'm so excited.
You're going to have to come back next week.
Oh, I'll be here.
Me too. Will you?